Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Out Comes the Sun with my delightful co-host, Melissa Yamaguchi, and myself, Mariel Hemingway. You know, we've got a good show coming up. You weren't there
No,
when I interviewed these guys, but it was fun. We had a really good time and super interesting. And I'll tell you about this later because I know we probably have a conversation to have. But Mark Turnipseed, that's his name. Mark Turnipseed, who is Tim Quinn's partner, had written a book about coming out and suicidal ideation
wow.
and addiction because he was a heroin addict. I mean, like it was kind of revealed, and you'll hear in the interview coming up. And I was like, wow, 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 wow. So I definitely want to have him back to talk about,
Absolutely.
those are some really relevant issues and he dealt with it in a really good book, really kind of very interesting, very good read, and just revealing of somebody going through that. Wow, his
I'm
life
sorry
has
I missed
changed.
it. It sounds like it was really good.
Yeah, it was really good. Well, you'll hear it because it's coming up. There you
I'll
go.
stick around. I'll stick around.
um
Um,
what do we got
there's
to talk about today?
well, I'll tell you something. There's some recent studies that have been coming out about there's a breakthrough project with mapping the brain and how it changes. So
Right.
there's a study in over 2,500 people with six different types of mental illness, from schizophrenia to depression, PTSD, whatever. Along there was a gamut of six of the most common that are studied, and
Right.
they discovered that the brain size literally changes in relation to the mental illness per person. So
Wow.
this begs the response that, what do we always say? One size does not fit all.
No.
And what they've discovered is that with all of these scientists are now saying, holy smokes, the brain is literally changing size. From a person who is suffering from schizophrenia, 100 people suffering from schizophrenia, each person's brain will switch and change sizes dependent upon his or her severity,
Oh, wow.
their environment, their behavior, their attitude, their food intake. So they're recognizing, a lot of the stuff that you say with the seven doctors, to be quite candid, and a lot of things we talk about with that whole one size doesn't fit all that we say, this concept that each person's brain is shifting and adjusting as it's trying to relate to the illness and its environment and its intake is overwhelming.
Would you say that shifting and adjusting is neural inflammation? Is that like an expansion of inflammation? Because I'm wondering, I say that because I just got a product from, I told you about this product that I've been kind of like looking into, it's called Medicure US.
Mm.
And it's fascinating. He sent me something on the brain and I was looking at it, and it's for neural inflammation and other things. It's got turmeric in it, very natural
I got
ingredient.
some of that.
But
I
yeah,
got some of that, and based on on your recommendation, I got
yeah.
some of that. And yeah, I think this study in particular was the scientists were highlighting their awe and fascination that
The brain
you could
is
take
adjusting.
identical twins. You could take identical twins. And if each twin suffers from schizophrenia, their brain shape and size, excuse me, could be different from one another dependent upon a myriad of factors. So it's not just, here's a pill, take this and you'll be better. Here's a shot,
Wow.
take this and you'll be better. It is literally, you've got to take so many factors in before you can make any kind of a diagnosis. Now, that sounds logical, and we've been saying this, and it makes sense. And the doctors of yore who would come to your home and walk in and ask you how the mules were doing and ask you how your cousin Bessie was
Yeah, yeah,
doing, that those days are so far gone for the most part, because doctors
yeah,
are put on this 15-minute time crunch to get in, get out, and get
yeah.
out. They
Well,
can't they cannot possibly sit down with that restriction, that 15-minute restriction, and say, tell me what you've been eating. Tell me about the stress you're under. Let's
yeah.
they so the, what these this incredible discovery about the brain sizes and the brain shifting and changing to try to adjust and to its illness is overwhelming. And one of the tools that they used was the TMS, the transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Yeah.
And I know that
Dr.
that is
Amen uses that, doesn't it? Doesn't he?
who?
Dr. Amen? Dr.
Yes,
Amen?
yes, he
Yeah.
does. Yes, he
Yeah.
does. And I think it might be worthwhile. We've had him on before, but Dr. Porter talking about
Yes.
brain tapping. So
100%.
one of the most exciting things that's happening with the study and the research of mental illness now is that this it doesn't sound so revolutionary to say, oh, we're all different and we all shouldn't be treated in the same
Right.
vein, but it actually is revolutionary in the work that they do, because it
Right.
has been kind of, schizophrenia is treated this way, depression is treated this way, OCD is treated this way, PTSD is treated this
Yeah.
way, and each person's brain is changing
So
size.
highly sensitive and different. But it begs me to question, like, I'm glad you brought up Dr. Porter and brain tap, and just the idea that any kind of frequency going in, the
Yeah.
sound, the frequency, has to help adjust that brain, which is doing this sort of, it almost feels like it's breathing into
Yeah,
trying to
compensate almost.
it's trying to compensate, because I think at the end of the day, the brain, like the body, wants to be in balance, wants to be healthy. It's just trying to figure out how to get there.
Yes.
Right.
And it
Yeah,
feels
it's
to
very
me like the
interesting.
brain, after this targeted form of brain stimulation from the TMS in particular, it sounds like the brain is trying to recalibrate. But even without that TMS, the brain was to realize that it's in constant flux, trying to figure out what's going on with itself, trying
Right.
to self-heal, is so beautiful. I don't know, when I read that, I thought, I got to let Mariel know about this.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm fascinated and curious. I'm curious what the brain is trying to do with that change in size. I mean, like that fascinates me. Anyway, more to come. We got to talk to somebody about that. Like, we'll definitely get Dr. Porter back on that one, because that's, I don't know, there's just something about the idea that the brain, like, I just know that the body wants to be healthy. I know that the brain wants to be in balance.
Yes.
And they talk about it in regard to the brain as allostasis, which is brain in flux. So it might have something to do with that, because homeostasis is a stable balance.
Yes.
But allostasis is
Fluctuating balance.
It's like find allostasis. It's
Finding
finding balance through movement, through change.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So I don't know. All this stuff fascinates me. I should have studied to be a doctor, but I'm doing it through your son. I mean, right? I know he's not being a doctor, but whatever. I think that he is so fascinating in his studies of the brain and everything else, and music, and how it all intertwines, which I just think I think that everything, again, I get back to everything is like interrelated to everything else.
Yes.
So like the music we listen to, the this, the that. I mean, we know that in utero, babies listening to music, babies are the result of your environment the entire time. Those 9 months of gestation are not, they are powerful. It's a powerful time. All of it is so interesting to me. I'm becoming a grandmother and watching my granddaughter change week to week, and I'm not seeing her physically as much as I'd like to, but the shifts and I see her picking up on things, becoming a human, like
so
becoming
cute.
more and more a part of this world. It's interesting. It's interesting anyway.
I love it.
Yeah. So, everybody, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Outcomes of Sun Radio with Melissa Yamaguchi and Mariel Hemingway. That's me. And we have wonderful 2 guests coming up. And I think you'll find it really fascinating. So stay where you are, because we're going to be talking more about all kinds of things. As a mental health advocate and author, I love books. Books have the capacity to inspire, educate, transform, and ultimately help readers all over the world. So if you want to publish your book, or if you need help writing your story, I highly recommend Mindstir Media, rated the #1 best book publisher around the country. Mindstir Media can help you no matter where you are in the book writing or publishing process. Go to mindstirmedia.com to learn more and schedule a consultation. Welcome, everybody. You are listening to Outcomes of Sun Radio, and I have two amazing guests today. One whom I met years ago because he was affiliated with Armani, and I think I did something, and I think he did my makeup, and I think we fell in love in that moment. Anyway, and we're back together again, but he's here with his partner. I have Tim Quinn and Mark Turnipseed. Yes, I did say Turnipseed because that's his name, and it's an amazing name. So he was saying Appleseed, but it's Turnipseed. So there you go. And they're amazing. They have an amazing skincare line that actually they sent me some amazing products. Halo 42 is the product, is what the product line is called. And what fascinated me, Tim and Mark, is the fact that you relate this to mental health, which, as you know, this show, Melissa's not here today, which is a shame. She's so sad about it, because she's actually, her husband's in the beauty industry, but that's a whole other conversation. But we were both just went, oh my gosh, thank you for making the link between, like skincare, beauty, self-care, self-love, all of that, and our mental health. Please explain to me how you have married these two things, which don't normally kind of go together when you think of mental health.
Well,
Sure.
I think we kind of accidentally did it at just the perfect time when the beauty world was kind of screaming and wanting it, right? So Tim hired me on as his CEO, like 3 years ago. And we didn't really know where it was going to go at that point, but I was coming from a background of mental health practice. And so I had been a mental health counselor for a number of years out in Montana. And I had been on a hiatus, kind of getting my life back in order over the past 5 years before I met Tim. That's when I published my book and everything like that. And then when Tim hired me on, I was like, I could see myself going into the skincare industry if we can somehow find a creative way to merge some mental health in it. So if we're able to, in the instructions, put some mindfulness clues and things like that in the brand, then I might be into it. And it just worked really well with Tim, because he was like, that's exactly what we need in the beauty world. So when I met Tim,
100%.
honestly, I had no idea about much in the makeup and beauty world. I was just starting to dive into it. So we agreed and set sail on learning about a whole bunch of stuff together.
That's amazing. Well, the truth is, and Melissa is very sad that she couldn't be here to ask these questions, because the beauty industry is wrought with a lot of mental health issues. There's a tremendous amount of kind of unspoken. And the truth is, as a makeup artist, and probably, hairdressers, makeup artists, you kind of sit there as, I know, because I've been on a million sets, film and print and whatever. And you're a therapist, really. Like you talk, you're there to boost the morale, the ego, the whatever, not just the vanity, but the person is vulnerable, sitting in that chair, kind of getting ready to go on stage or whatever you're doing. And so there's is that kind of where it came from? Did you know that people in the beauty industry really were suffering kind of in silence?
Oh, sure. Having been at Armani for 20 years, I've always said, and it was part of when I was speaking with Mark, I never claimed to be the best makeup artist in the world. I was really good at connecting with what was going on in the actual person in front of me.
Right.
And I think that's what beauty used to be, it started off just enhancing and bringing out, and it's like wearing the perfect dress that gives you a little more confidence. And over the last 20 years, I just saw that it really just became a marketing vessel to sell what's hot, what's new, what's, Instagram and Photoshopped. And I started to really feel like a little disconnected inside with a job I used to love, really,
Right.
And that's, when I hired Mark, it was the pandemic. I had quit my job. I was living at home. My mom had dementia. I was taking care of her. And I saw a sparkle come back between the two of us, because in doing her makeup every single day, and I would do it on live Instagram,
Oh,
this connection happened, right? And this beautiful younger version of herself came back. And I read Mark's book, I hired him. And what he did in this coaching was made me recognize that what he was doing back for me is what I was doing all along. And it's kind of what
Right.
was missing in beauty.
right.
Is just products that, first of all, allow you to connect with yourself, in a way that, when you look in the mirror and you actually look in the mirror, you can start to recognize the little child in you. You start, those little things that start to make you smile. All of a sudden, you're radiating beauty in a different way,
Right.
right? And that's really where we connected.
I love that. And I love that. Well, first of all, Mark, you come from Montana. So you're in my neck of the woods. I'm in Idaho, and I love Montana. And I used to have a house that was very close to the Montana Idaho border. Anyway, that's another podcast. But this idea that that a product can kind of speak to your soul, can kind of turn on your inner beauty, because beauty really is, my mother used to say, pretty is as pretty does, but like it really is something that comes from the inside, because it's not lasting. You can do all the plastic surgery you want, and no judgment, like the world is so tough. So like, I don't judge anybody for doing anything, but it really comes down to, how are you feeling about you? And that beauty is really a self-awareness, a sort of discovery of who and how you show up in the world. So I think showing up with a product that actually speaks to the soul, explain how you have married that. Like what are the ingredients that kind of turn the, okay?
You have to have him tell you about Copaiba. That was, for me, that was the transformative moment.
Well, I think that, our ingredients, where they kind of come from, they arise out of a kind of a level of mutual agreement between the biological importance of them and the psychological impact that they have. So just kind of a mutual interest, both Tim and I were like, well, wait a second. This one impacts some mental health functioning, helps to calm a person down, has shown to alleviate ADHD symptoms. That's very curious. And then let's look and see if it is married anywhere in skincare, so there was some of that that helped us to bridge as it pertained to the ingredients. But that is going to be a hard thing to continue on throughout the rest of product development. I mean, you can't always have an ingredient that also has crossover effects on the mental health avenue, but Copaiba just so happens really did have a strong crossover. It does
really?
help. Yeah. So it's an essential oil that comes out of Brazil. They've been using it for centuries to heal different ailments arising on the skin that come out of stress in particular. And so when the skin is stressed, may it be from a wound, or from pregnancy scars, or from getting a tribal tattoo or anything like that, right? They would put it on and it would alleviate the stress. Well, you can also take it orally, and it can alleviate very similarly to CBD, how it can alleviate the inflammatory response of certain aspects of your central nervous system. So can Copaiba, just like ibuprofen, anything that's going to work on that inflammatory response is also going to have kind of a somnolent type effect. And so So to, go into an ingredient like that was just kind of compelling and exciting for us. And so we went down to Peru and got to know the ingredient and got to know the people. And then it grew into something much bigger, because then we're seeing an ingredient that is almost sacred, and it comes from a spiritual level where people actually use it to connect with nature and to connect with life and love on a very deeper level. So it became a very special, ingredient for us. And so that's
Become
when
a cornerstone of our whole collection now.
yeah, that's when we were like, this project could be really fun. We can start traveling the world and finding other ingredients that are like this, that not only bring in the power of the ingredient, but the power of the culture, and help to educate the world about the power of medicinal plants.
Absolutely. Does your body oil have that in it? Because that body oil is insane. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
that
have
was
to
the
tell you,
first. Yeah, that was the first product. And
it's so good that I put it on my face. Just everybody should know. Like, I
yeah,
think it's safe.
no, it is. We actually just
But it makes me happy. I have to
right?
tell you, like, I put it on and I'm like, I don't know, it's crazy, but it's like, it does have this aroma. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not trying to plug your stuff because you sent me some. I really was like, wow, this is really good. Because usually, like, I'll get sent product and I'm like, oh boy, I'll just take a picture of it and like send it on its way
Right.
or whatever. But it was really amazing. And then I put the mask, and nobody makes a mask anymore. Like, make more masks. It's
Right.
like, because I don't know why, but I love a mask. I don't know,
Yay.
call me crazy. I love a mask. But those ingredients really are, there's a sensuality that happens. There's a calm. I mean, no kidding. I know a lot about what ingredients in the world, in the natural world, especially in aromatherapy, that kind of can be calming and that kind of thing. And it really is genuinely like effective. And so I was wondering, because there probably won't be hordes of different topical things that you can use that are going to affect the skin. Are you going to do a line of supplements for skin care, or what are you thinking? Or are you just going to look for unique?
No, that's actually, quite honestly, Mariel, that's where we first started thinking we were going to do some fashion items. But supplements, especially because of Mark's background, are definitely an area. We were actually at one point, a year and a half ago, we had somewhere of a video, we had hundreds of different organic things, and we had little jars because I like everything to look pretty, and we were actually mixing and testing. And
I have the formulation down to a very incredible protein powder that I would love to create. And I've got a couple different formats of it that can come in like frozen Go-Gurt type style, yogurt tubes.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some ideas, that we're,
That's awesome.
that we're cooking, but
are they like, is it a protein powder with collagen, I would suspect?
So there can be collagen in it. So the beauty-based one would definitely be a collagen, hyaluronic acid, and it's a proprietary top secret formula.
Yeah. But they just sort of for the outer beauty really is for the internal, like, body. I mean, like, one doesn't go without the other. Because I talk about mental health in regards to, I talk about the 7 doctors, and the 7 doctors are Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Nutrition, Dr. Rest, and Dr. Earth. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're free. But those are like that connection in nature. That's kind of what turns on the internal body. And it gets back to that. How do you feel about yourself? And really, to take care of your skin is such a big, I mean, I know getting older, it's not always easy. Right? You look at the mirror, you're like
battling, but it's all part of, taking care of all the mind, body, and soul. And so much of your 7 doctors are things that, quite honestly, I had kind of forgotten about. And when I hired Mark, it was part of his coaching, was all of that, getting back outside, doing this. And then I started listening again to your podcast, and I thought, oh, this all really it aligns so much, because so much about what we talk about, even with our brand, you know, we do during the beginning of the COVID, when we launched, we had to do Zoom makeup class, or, you know, beauty classes.
Yeah.
And Mark would lead us with a sound bowl healing, and then
Nice.
they put their mask on and really connect. And it's a lot about teaching people how to blend all those things together, you know.
It's
Your
so
mask in
important. People
nature.
think it's all separate, you know, like
Yeah.
the head is separate from the body, and like what you eat doesn't have an effect on you. I mean, come on. You know, if you put an Advil in your body and 20 minutes later you don't have a headache, you know, eating a Big Mac is going to have an effect on your system, on your mental health, on, you know, on your brain's capacity to be clear. You know, it's not that there are not successful people out there eating crappy food, but ultimately, like, if you can do all of those things and realize that they're all interconnected, that's huge. I love that you're doing that. It's because you come from Montana. That's why.
And there's a flip side to this coin too, which beauty companies can start to kind of combat the negative, you know, effects that we as beauty companies have instilled in society. You know, one of those is like covering up and trying to hide your inner beauty and your true self. And so what we kind of recognized with Halo 42 was like, look, every time that somebody's at the mirror, it's a very fine opportunity for them to connect with their true beauty. Like if we stop looking at it as a time to cover up. So I started a few years back looking at my life like a rose garden, and that really helped me because I started to look at my life and my body and everything that I did as a rose garden, and it just, I always needed to trim it up. I always needed to prune it back. It wasn't always going to be perfect. There was always going to be dirt in it, and there was always going to be roses in it, and there was going to be different seasons that I would have to go through. But when I look at my life like that, then I look at processes that I go through no different than gardening, right? I have to go out there, and the process of gardening, when I do it, what ends up happening is I finish my gardening task and I step back and I look at my garden and I go, wow, that is awesome. Wow, that is beautiful. And in doing that, that is just a moment of mastery, right? That's a mental health moment that somebody can step back from and be proud of themselves. Well, the beauty routine is no different. It's our chance to go in and for 5 minutes, just tend to our little rose garden and to step back and look at myself in my eyes and go, wow, that's a miracle. That is beautiful. And if I do that, there is no way on earth, there is no way that I can look at something and say that is beautiful and not also feel love and feel desire and feel purpose inside of that thing. And what we recognized, Tim and I, was that, you know, a lot of the work that both of us had done was to help people to recognize that beauty. And here's what happens when I recognize my beauty. When I recognize my beauty, what I'm able to do is I'm able to then go out into the world and look at other people in the eyes. And then I can see that they are just as much of a miracle as the miracle that I just recognized doing my beauty routine in myself. And if I recognize their beauty as such, then there's no way not to love them. That is ultimately what we call the Halo 42 effect, and how a whole mental health perspective shift inside of the beauty routine can actually end up spreading love throughout our community and our society. So that's our greater mission.
No, but you know what? It sounds grandiose, but it's not. And you're absolutely right, because you really defined what oneness is. Because oftentimes I speak around the country about mental health, and I'll start with a meditation, and I'll do a meditation where it's 3 minutes long just to get people kind of grounded and centered and like looking at stuff. But it's really about like, we're all the same. The person next to you, we're all connected, right? In some way. So if we're all connected, then if I can love myself, or I can love you, and my loving you enables me to love myself, and vice versa, and the person behind me, all of that, then you start to feel that connection of oneness, that community. And I do believe that and we've, you know, it's interesting that you started, during COVID, right? You started when people were so separated and we had to only speak through Zoom and we're masked up and we can't look and we can't, and everybody's like afraid and living in these shadows. And the truth is that's, and it really taught us that we need connection. We need touch, we need connection, we need to realize how interconnected we are. And, I think that your approach is beautiful. I always feel like, okay, I tell my story, not because I think it's a great story, but because I think that my story enables people to go, oh my gosh, if she has a story, right, then I can tell my story and then I'm not so crazy and I'm not so alone. But also what you're doing with your beauty care is the same thing. It's like you're looking in the mirror, you're looking at your story, right? You're looking at those lines that have been created. Maybe you soften them somehow, whatever. You do what you have to do, but you recognize the story in that face, right? And in recognizing the story in that face, then you have this ability to go, oh my gosh, I can recognize this story in everybody's face because it's my story. Your story is my story, right? It's beautiful.
And it's, we did one class where we had 3 generations, the grandmother, the daughter, and then the grandkid and her friends, who were all like, I don't know, 20. And I thought, oh, this could go horribly wrong as we like had them all around a table, we're doing the but we started with the sound bowl, a little guided meditation, made them put all their phones away. And you're supposed to leave the mask on for 15 to 20 minutes. Well, about an hour later, they were all still sitting there because they were doing each other's skincare, grandmothers. Yeah. And it was so beautiful because I oftentimes see so much where the generations just don't connect. And all it takes is a very short amount of time spending time with someone in a different way. And then all of a sudden, there's no generation barrier,
That's beautiful that you did that too, because they're actually finding, I talk about this a lot too, the blue zones, the key to longevity is grandparents, which I can say because I am now a grandparent.
Are you? Oh,
I'm sending names to my daughter. It's like, the more you hang out with your mother, the longer she will live and shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the truth is, like, those connections, like, all kidding aside, those connections, those generational, like, beauty, and also recognizing the beauty in each generation as we move to the baby, there's beauty in each one. And for you to like accentuate that, I just think that's important. I think it's so cool. I love what you're doing because, like, I've talked to other people in the beauty industry and nobody's quite as, I'm not good or bad. I'm again making no judgment on anyone. It's just nobody's quite made that connection that, the inner, your inner, your outer, it's really all the same if you balance them in the right kind
it all
of way.
glows that way, and sometimes you just need a gentle reminder like I did this week. Because
what was your gentle reminder this week?
Well, part of my whole, reevaluation of my life over the last couple of years with my coach was I started eating meat again in December after, I don't know, 20 something years, because I recognized, like, I could know innately I needed something. Well, then I tend to go all in on anything. Just yesterday, the day before, somebody reminded me, it's like, you didn't eat meat for 20 years and now you ordered it every meal. It's like, because that's just the way I am. If you tell me like swimming is great for you, I'm in that pool,
I really do. Maybe this is where we connected and fell in love, and that because I am so the same way. I'm like, oh my God, more must be better. But I was 20 years a vegan, and to my vegan friends who are healthy and wonderful, I commend them. But it started to not be good for me. And that was I don't know for you, but it was I was really messed up about, because I had made it a whole thing.
Right. It's your identity.
I was, it was who I was, right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't eat anything that had eyes or walked or.
Yeah, I was so cool because of it, right? And then then I met my significant other now, who is like, I don't know, running around like a tribal human, going after like meat. He literally eats meat raw. So I was like, wow, I gotta change it. And that was 15 years ago, but it was a journey of kind of, and also then you have to make ethical choices, right?
Right.
So if you do eat meat, and many people do, I just like totally strongly recommend that they eat sustainable, like grass-fed, grass-finished,
Right.
treated well, no factory farms. Like you have to look at these things. But I see life, the food we eat, drinking water, whether you drink out of plastic or glass. I mean, like all of these choices impact the planet, right? And they impact everybody else around you. So anyway, I completely understand the kind of obsessive thing. Yes. Now you're eating it every meal.
Well, now I won't eat it again for another year because I've been.
Because they brought it up to you. No, don't do that.
Exactly.
Just be mindful.
Yeah, that's exactly the word, right?
He's laughing.
Yeah.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
Put on that, pound it out. Next time you want that cheeseburger, just pound it out with the lip gloss instead.
But with the mask, actually, I just remembered that. So all the products the ingredients were special to both of us in different ways. So the zinc and the sulfur, when I was going through chemo, I would go to Italy every 3 months and drink zinc and sulfur and soak in the bath because it's to get it out of my system, right?
Right.
And Mark and I were talking about that. Well, in Montana, I didn't know it was in this country. He would go.
Yeah, when I was early in my recovery from heroin addiction, I learned about a sulfur spring that I guess you could go and soak in, and it would dispel your negative emotional energy. So I went and I would soak.
Wow.
Not only would I soak, but I would fill up these big 5-gallon drums of water and drink it all week. And it was just like this egg tasting, smelling water. But
I hear you.
it was so
It's
strong,
powerful.
and the world were coming to it. So it was like, but it worked. It worked.
Wow. Okay, you just dropped a ginormous bomb. Like, oh, my heroin addiction. Okay. Like, hello. Good on you. Like, that's no joke. That's mental health.
Yeah.
Addiction is mental health. Like, and people look at addicts and, there's that story. Wow.
People look at me too and they go, well, he obviously found his recovery actually through, triathlon, and like, there's no way I can do that. But I tell everybody, no, it actually all started, to be honest, it started with my self-care. It started with self-love. It started with connecting with that. And I really connected that with mindfulness. And that was actually when my counselor told me I was in rehab. This was about 10 years ago, and I was brushing my teeth and they kept bleeding. And I went to her and I went, I'm just completely hopeless. I can't even brush my teeth. And like 4-year-olds brush their teeth. I was like, I can't even brush my teeth. And she goes, well, why don't you go and try to do it mindfully? And I did. And she goes, pay attention to each bristle stroke. So I was like, and it made me smile, and I didn't bleed, and I got through brushing my teeth, and I kind of enjoyed the process. And that minute I go, you know what? This mindfulness thing, that's what yoga is about. Maybe I'll go practice. Maybe I'll go do a couple of poses that I remember, like, and then maybe I'll make my bed after. And I just started doing everything mindfully. And that's where the momentum started in my life, was actually through mindfulness with self-care.
This is cool. These are all things that I talk to people about, getting up in the morning and just brushing your teeth mindfully, like taste the water, the toothpaste, doing it slow enough that you're it's really about being present, right? And being present is the process of doing what you're doing when you're doing it. Because right now, the only thing I'm doing is talking to the two of you. There is nothing else in my world at this moment, but we as humans have such we're so addicted to the thoughts that we have in our head, right? To the chatter. What am I going to say next? I've got to get my voice in because I need to be heard, because I feel that I'm not heard. it's so interesting. Like, good on you, man. That's like both of you, like your journey has been amazing. And I'm not gonna, we don't have much time left, but I'm not gonna let you get away without telling me a little bit about your ayahuasca journey. Tell 'em.
You know, actually,
What's up?
that's where the first time I actually really understood how everything is so connected. Because there was at one point, I think it was the day, what was that other thing? It was we did Sappho. I mean, if I was going all in, right? So I was laying in a field, and I swear the little ducks were talking to me through the leaves of but I could literally feel the warmth of not just the sun, but the energy. And then all of a sudden, everything he had been coaching me about, because that was kind of the pinnacle of my, hiring him as a coach, was we're going to Peru and we're going to do ayahuasca. I didn't even know what it was, but man.
That was not part of the coaching plan, actually. We were done coaching at that point, and I called him and said, I'm going to go down to Peru and do an ayahuasca.
All right, well, it
journey.
might have been that.
And then he said, I'm actually interested in doing that too. So we went as co-founders of a business together. If you hire me as a coach, I'm not going to end it in an ayahuasca journey with you. I can guarantee you that.
No, I
Probably
imagine
never
that.
going to do that again.
Right. Well, and thank you for saying that too, because I think that, so much of today is like, oh, I do ayahuasca. I was like, wait, that
Yeah.
should be a very sacred journey. And I'm so like, who am I to do? Like, I don't know anything about anything, but I've not done it. But I think if I were going to ever make that choice, I would do it in Peru, where it is, like where they do that. It's a sacred journey as part of their culture or whatever.
Oh yeah, it was extraordinary.
Yeah,
The
like
shaman
this,
from the
like
Shipibo.
weekend, I'm a shaman over the weekend. I'm going to give you
Oh yeah.
something
Look.
about that just gets me a little nervous.
Tim and I took 3 months in preparation, preparing our
Oh, wow.
bodies and diet. I mean, doing a diet that was extremely strict, no sex, no horror movies, like everything. I mean, we
Oh, wow.
and then like
Yeah.
no TV or social media for a month before. So like we really cut out a lot. And then
You really did
afterward,
it.
too.
Well, oh, you really like that's okay. Like
Oh, yeah,
I
well,
totally
it was
understand.
all a very spiritual. Once I realized what I was getting myself into, and like I said before, if you tell me do this, I do it to the next degree. So we got that less, and I went down it.
You can't even drink coffee. And that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I don't think I'll do it again. Because I can't drink coffee for a month leading up to
Yeah,
it.
I would feel the same way. I was like, what? Even though Bobby would be like, this is good. You can get off coffee now. I'm like,
Right.
look,
Yeah.
there's only one thing I do, and that's coffee. And at least it's organic. And I actually don't think it's that bad. But there you go. You guys are so fascinating and so enchanting. And I love, love, love talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And Tim, it's so great to reconnect with you. And
Oh, I'm
oh
delighted.
my gosh, your products are amazing, and I wish them tremendous success. And really, thank you, Mark, and Tim. I'm so grateful to have you on, and I'll say your name afterwards when I'm reminded of how amazing you are. Anyway, you guys are great, and tell me how we can watch you on social media, because many people are still doing that.
All right. Well, we have our Instagram is at Halo42 Effect, EFFECT.
Okay.
And then Mark is at Mark A Turnipseed. And I'm at Tim Quinn Beauty. We kind of, all the worlds kind of collide, but.
Yes, I love it. Well, you guys are great. I'm so
Thank you.
excited by your project. It really makes me super happy. So thank you for coming on Outcomes the Sun.
Thank you for having us on. It was really extraordinary.
This was wonderful. Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you too. Awesome. Well, next time you're going towards Montana, you'll have to stop in Idaho and say hi to me.
I'm always okay with a stop in Idaho.
There you go. Good. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Sometimes we forget that our skin and our beauty care has a lot to do with our mental health. I know it's a big part of my life. You know, I feel better about myself if I take care of myself. Anyway, so thank you to Tim and Mark Turnipseed. So grateful to have them on. And now stay where you are, because Melissa Yamaguchi is coming back with an amazing energy tip.
This is John Sane, global expert at Singularity, faculty at Duke, 5 times best-selling author, and futurist who combines future studies and neuroscience to try and help organizations and humans prepare for the future. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the future of hope. How do we think about hope in brand new ways? How do we cultivate courage in 5 new ways? How to be more courageous in a world of total uncertainty where hope was always predicated on some level of certainty. Looking forward to seeing you on the pod Out Comes the Sun with Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi.
Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun radio podcast dash. Here we are. Yes, I am green with envy. You can't see it on the radio, but maybe if I hold up the right color, you can see it on our show. Green with envy that I wasn't able to be a part of that, because I am deeply entrenched into the world of beauty, and I love everything that the gentleman had to share and say. It's all very vital. So I'm going to give you some tips on the feng shui of the entryway of your home. Now, if you have a home in particular that has a porch, this is for you, and then I'll give information if you live into an apartment where you share maybe the entryway with a hallway or so forth. So the porch entryway to your home, the first thing that you have to do is make sure that you declutter it, that you keep it very clean. Not only does it make sense logically, because every time you open that door, if it's dirty, all that dust and leaves and debris comes flying into your home, but it also is a statement about how you feel about yourself. That's your face to the outside world, that door. So when people come up to that front door, they're seeing a version of you before they ever open the door and see the true reflection of your personality, much like when you meet people. You put your best face forward, and then as they get to know you, they get to find out more about your personality. That's what happens when they come to your home. They see your entryway, they see your front door, that's you. Then they enter to your home to find out more about your personality. So keep that decluttered and clean. Sweep it, sweep it. You know, the old grandmas and grandpas used to always sweep that front porch and keep it moving. And there was like a special broom. It was like that really straw frayed out broom that was used only for the porch. There's a reason for that. Keep that out, get it moving. What you place on the front porch has importance. So whether you're placing a wreath on your door or flowers at the front of your home, or you're putting objects like an elephant or a little turtle or whatever, any kind of little like a garden bench, whatever you're putting on there, make sure that this is a total reflection of your personality. Again, your home is, but this is a statement about you. Do you want your guests to feel welcome? Maybe you have a bench where they can sit down and take their shoes off. Do you want them to know that you're a loving family? Maybe you have a little collection of hearts inside of a pot. I don't know, but think about that front and how that reflects you. A wreath on the door per season, a lot of people change it out. That's always a welcoming sign that somebody who's paying attention to their home and you eventually, when people take the time to decorate their door. Avoid anything with spikes. Now, a long time ago in Asia, that when they would get ready for the palace and protecting it, they would have a lot of spiked things down by the gates to ward people away from coming closer to the palace where the emperor and his family were. But right now in modernized feng shui, we know that anything spiked at your front door is a dagger against good entering in the home. Now, let's just be logical. The more spiked things you have at your front door, the greater the chance you have of impaling yourself on the way into the front of your house. So keep it easy and keep it light. It's always good, maybe not at the front of your house, but at the back, to have wind chimes to really capture the beauty of nature as it's blowing, and you can bring that into your home. That some people are irritated by the sound of wind chimes, but if you're not, then I would like to encourage you to bring in the sound of wind chimes by having that around. Color is important. But I practice a type of feng shui that color is dependent upon the direction of your home. So if you say, well, I'd love to paint my front door green or red or blue, know the direction your home is facing before you do that. You can find that out usually online. You can always go to my Instagram, and I post things sometimes there too, but color is important and it is directional, but color is vital it's a beautiful source of vitality for the front of your home. Make sure that your doormat says something welcoming, if it says anything at all. Mine doesn't say anything. Mine doesn't say go away, scram, welcome. It doesn't say anything. It's just a doormat to clean your feet. But a lot of people have messages on their doormats. Please be aware that words carry vibration. So if you have words, the vibration of the message reverberates into your home, whether you realize, and that scram, get off my yard kind of mentality carries into the home. So be aware of that. Keep that pathway walking up to your home clear. If you can place lights, if you don't want to do the electrical work, get those little solar lights you can grab at the big hardware stores and keep that little pathway lit. That's a really welcoming call into your home, even if it's just for you. You should be able to open your door very freely. So keep that WD-40 around, keep the door in good movement. The door is the portal in. It represents your personality, but it represents how easy life is for you coming and going. And if your home is like stuck and you got to pull it really hard to get out the door, you're leaving the house with frustration. Or if you have to push to get in, you're entering with frustration. So make sure that door opens freely. Don't block it with a bunch of stuff in or out. Make sure you can see your house numbers very clearly and that they're clean and that you keep it dusted, and make sure that the light you have on your porch is always refreshed with a clean bulb. So it sounds like little small tricks, but I promise you it makes a big difference in the way you see yourself as you're entering your home and the way others see you as you open your door. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. Coming back is Mariel Hemingway, the tips on health and balance.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Outcomes Sun Radio. I'm Mariel Hemingway, and I do have a healthy balance tip for you today. I want to talk about ritual, a little bit about ritual. Ritual is a big part of my life. And in particular, tea is like, you always see me, like if you're watching this podcast ever, I'm always drinking tea. I love jasmine pearls, but I love the ritual behind making a pot of tea, the smell of it. And the reason why I think that rituals, I mean, from a purely basic level, not from a Taoist level, which is much more deep, and the rituals and the ceremony behind it is far more intricate than what I'm going to tell you. But I do believe that rituals help you to learn to be present. Right? Our ability to be present in a world that is filled with so much information, energy, this, that, and the other thing, weather's changing, so much information about the world around us and worlds far, far away from us. We have them, right here. I mean, you're listening to a podcast, you're getting information constantly all the time. And so rituals, especially like making a pot of tea, rituals slow you down and enable you to take a moment to truly be present with whatever you're doing. And the idea of being present, people talk about this a lot. And I'm sure you're like, whatever. I don't, it's hard to be present, right? Here's the definition of what present means to me. Present is being here right now in this moment. All I am doing right now is speaking to all of you about being present. That's all that is happening right now. There is no worrying about the future. There's no, attachment to the past, thinking about what happened to me when I was in 4th grade or whatever. Because when you are doing those things where your head is not here, you are not being present. And being present creates harmony, respect, purity, elegance inside the body, because presence is such a wonderful thing to try to achieve. And it is a journey. It's not always easy. I don't find it super easy to be present when things are stressful, right? But that's when ritual becomes really important in your life. That's when you slow the simple things down, even when you're washing dishes in your sink and you feel the water and you put the soap in, you smell the soap, the water gets warmer, you feel the temperature, you clean the dish. It sounds really simplistic, but those are tools to help you stay here. And being present is such a healthy thing to do, because also what being present does is it removes stress from your life. Stress is usually caused caused by worrying about something that happened or worrying about something that's going to happen, right? That's the stress of our lives. We're dealing with things, and it doesn't mean that those things don't come up. But when you do your simple tasks like brushing your teeth, making a pot of tea, do it with the intention of, I am here only, and I am doing this only. And that is where I find my presence. And then you take that into your life. And it's like in yoga, we often say, take it off the mat. And what that means is, yes, you can be present on a yoga mat, but then what happens when you walk out of the yoga studio and you get in your car and somebody cuts you off? It's about having the ability to stay with yourself, realizing that moments happen, they come and they go. And being present helps you to deal with the stress of our lives. So that's my talk about balance and ritual. And I think, why not? It helps.
I like it.
Yeah.
I was present the whole time you were talking.
Awesome. I could
like
tell because you were listening.
Yep.
It was very cool. I could hear you listening.
You could hear me listening. I'm a loud listener, but I'm there.
That sounds like your dad. I'm a loud listener. I'm
Oh,
85.
gosh.
I'm 88.
I'm
No, what is
2 years shy of 90.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
2 years shy of 90.
So my mom and dad came over to the house the other night for dinner, and my parents had been divorced for over 40 years, but they're still really good friends. They just didn't make it a husband and wife, but they're great friends. And it was interesting watching them in the backyard reminisce about when they were in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And they kind of like got lost in their old world, just laughing and talking about how important it was. But I thought time has no meaning when you're in the middle of joy. When you're right in the middle of joy and laughter, time, you lose essence of time, right?
Yeah, it's so good. I love hearing about your parents and the fact that they have a relationship after and they have been married for what? How many
Over
years?
40 years.
Wow. And they were married how long before?
27 or 28 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez Louises.
Jeez Louise. Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But
Good
they're
on
still,
them.
yeah, they're still friends. And they knew each other.
That's a testament to knowing that there's a time in your life where somebody is right next to you.
Yep.
And that journey happens because you're so indebted to them to be right next to one another. But sometimes you grow apart in that journey, but that doesn't mean that you grow apart as human beings. You used to love them. You had children with them. I mean, I commend them for their ability to just be like, we created something great together and, so we can't live together anymore. I mean, if more people, and we should probably do a show on that. That's really called when you talk about spiritual relationships and spiritual divorce, that's really what it's about. It's about just owning the fact that you have grown differently, not even apart. It's just differently. One person's going in this direction, the other person's like, and that, and it just no longer works in that same direction.
Well, and to kind of use your verbiage, when they're together, they're present. They're not thinking about the argument they had when they were in their 30s or 40s. They're not thinking about, you left when, or you did this. It's just right now, right here. We've got grandchildren, great grandchildren. We're both still here, walking the planet. Let's just enjoy
I love how they care about each other and they worry about each other's well-being and physical well-being and their spiritual. I love it. You tell me stories about that and I'm like, it just blows my mind because I don't come from a very close family knit situation, or they have all passed in my life. So I find it fascinating and really encouraging because it shows that can happen. I think for those of us that don't have that tight knit kind of family structure, we think, oh, come on, that doesn't really exist. But you're living proof that can happen. It doesn't mean that there are aspects of our, of families that don't work, but
no.
That does.
And trust me, they both will call me, your mother did this, your father did this. So they still tell on each other, but they are friends.
Gosh.
They are friends.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, this has been a wonderful show. I'm super I don't know, I'm excited about it. I'm I wish you had been there with Tim, and because you are such a part of the beauty, health and beauty world. But I invited Mark Turnipseed back because I want him to talk about his book and the
Good.
suicide and the addiction and all that stuff. So anyway, everyone, thank you for listening. We love having you here every week. And I just want to remind you all that we are on Dash Radio now. Dash Radio. Melissa, you found us on Saturday?
Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. and Sunday evenings at 9 p.m.
Got it. Got it. And we plan on expanding that a little bit, but we're gonna take this slow and work ourselves out in this situation. But we're loving the Dash family and the Dash Radio. It just makes us really happy. So I'm so glad that you're all with us as usual, and we'll be back. So stay where you are, or don't stay where you are, but come back when we come back. Okay.